Hi, everybody. This is Dixon,
I'm Jose.
and welcome to episode 7 of Southwest Side Stories. I'm excited to hear this episode. We're talking with Rolando Favela, who is very active in environmental issues here on the Southwest Side. Um, Jose, you're going to be doing the interview. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're interested in talking to Rolando about?
Yeah, well, Rolando is very knowledgeable in, the environmental impact that a lot of the major developments and a lot of the industry that employs a lot of the people that live along the Southwest side actually have on our health. And, for my, and I'm really curious to see how his engagement in like group organizing has been and what he hopes is possible in these next short years in terms of getting local organizing aligned with a larger environmentally sustainable kind of vision. But I'm sure it's just going to be a lot of back and forth of local developments.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about local development, and you can, you know, say development literally as well, because a lot of times we see these projects come up in our communities. We see the construction beginning, and a lot of times people who live in the area might not necessarily be aware of even what's being built. We've seen Amazon come into the Southwest Side and continue to come into the Southwest Side. I was driving down 51st Street earlier today, and I saw, kind of a row of industry that includes Amazon now, and the Central Steel Factory, and you just kind of wonder what is the impact going to be across the Southwest Side. But yeah, a lot of times these things pop up, and we don't necessarily even know it's going on. Never mind, have an opportunity to weigh in and say, do we want this in our community or not?
Yeah. I mean, for my end, I was an intern in 2015 when discussions of a trucking logistics center along the Chicago River were first kind of popping up in some circles in downtown Chicago. And despite community organizing and messaging and pushback of what they would rather see in that space, one of the topics that I will be discussing with Orlando will be that trucking logistics center that will be coming, shortly, in 2022. So I am curious to see just where he's at in terms of what's possible, but also what's necessary. So I'm here with Rolando Favela. He's a member of a collective, a volunteer for events, and brings with him an impressive set of skills that we're going to be talking about today. Um, in the Southwest side, a lot of the jobs that get pushed onto this area have to do with trucking logistics, with factory and warehousing. And for the most part, it does not make for a very clean, walkable, or bike-friendly neighborhood. At the collective, we've been doing what we can to try to make our communities much more walkable and environmentally friendly. And Ronald's been helping a lot with that. There are a lot of great ideas and a lot more diagnosis of why this keeps happening on the Southwest side. So, Rolando, thanks so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Of course, happy to be here.
Thanks. Do you want to walk people through your time in the collective these last 2 years and what you've been up to?
Sure thing. So I have an environmental science background, and while I was doing my studies, I would go into a restaurant. At the time, it was Bohica's, but it's now Zoe's Patio. And I would go in there, have dinner, and study. And if someone was around, I'd talk about this cool thing I learned, whether it was agriculture or stormwater management or any little thing related to the environment. You chat people up, and people are around. And so I guess the owner remembers, hey, there's this guy that used to talk about trees a ton when Jamie, the founder of the Southwest Collective, was looking to assemble community members for the group. The owner of now Zoe's Patio knew just the person to to bring on board for environmental talk. So I was very grateful to have left an impression on folks around me. Just I was excited about talking about the environment. I'll talk with anyone about the environment. And so I guess that led me to the collective, and yeah.
Awesome. And I feel like the collective's kind of, been we're small, but it's still, the impact has been pretty big. How has like how do you diagnose the southwest side of where we're at right now? What we can do?
Well, it's teeming with potential, but we are very industrial, as many people know. There's a population density issues. I know that if you have been down on the southwest side and tried to get a parking spot, it may have been problematic with people's coming over. There's people that move out of the neighborhood, but they come back in to check on their folks, and so there's still that density. And unfortunately, with that becomes another thing to touch on is you mentioned the factories and the trucking, and so you get that traffic, and then on top of it, you get the population density and their traffic, and so it's just it's a mess in some cases, and I'm a little concerned that we're getting even more TDLs into the area. Our neighborhoods aren't built to be trucking lanes, and they were residential. So that's gonna unfortunately probably come to a head at some point. But in the meantime, we're still living in it right now. Our neighborhoods are dusty. There's issues with not to get too technical, but particulate matter is going to be the issue of the day sooner rather than later with the trucking. I know people are excited about electrification with tires, and that's great. You want to reduce diesel emissions, of course, but there's still the issue of particulate matter, particularly PM10, which is thicker, more problematic dust from tires. And like I mentioned, there's residential traffic, there's trucking traffic, and it's just dust on top of dust on top of dust in our communities, unfortunately.
And on that matter, I mean, I grew up in Chicago throughout the 90s, and people around my age or older, we remember the Fisk power plant that was still operational. It was a coal-fired plant in our neighborhood. And a lot of people got asthma from that power plant, and because of that, they were able to shut down the power plant in the early 2000s. But now that site is becoming a trucking logistics hub. And to your point, wouldn't that be almost an equivalently same problem as the coal-fired plant that it's replacing?
Oh, absolutely. There's, of course, real tangible data that reflects asthma rates, disproportionate asthma rates, disproportionate cancer rates. And it's unfortunate to see because it's still very residential, and there's real schools nearby. There's multi-generational homes nearby, and they're being affected. And yeah, you see the tangible results of industry, unfortunately, in our communities with the escalating asthma rates.
Because of that trucking logistics hub coming and our residential streets not being particularly equipped to handle that much heavy truck traffic, what can we expect from the city in terms of public transportation needs, or would that be enough? Like if they expanded another train to go from downtown into this area, or there's plans of expanding the Orange Line to Ford City. There's very old plans with the existing public transportation infrastructure that we have. But is there any way that expanding that is going to, make traffic not even more of a nightmare?
Well, it'll alleviate things for sure. You want as robust of a transportation network as you possibly can. However, our streets, the physical streets themselves, are not designed in a way to take repeated truck traffic. These are residential areas. And so how many times have you seen in communities they're tearing up the pipes, or there's some kind of construction going on? That it's not designed to be in all intents and purposes a highway. I'm from Sleepy Hollow, and so every so often they have to tear up the streets to replace the pipes, even though the residents have complained for decades now, not years, decades, that the streets crumble every so often because of the truck traffic that's through residential areas. The streets are built differently. The highways are like the fresh concrete. You can see it in color too. The highways are white, whereas when you have a layer of asphalt that's about this thick, it blows my mind that the expectation that an asphalt layer this thick is just going to withstand this truck traffic, especially when you consider the urban heat island effect. Again, not to get too technical on folks, but the urban heat island effect is basically where the black streets, they absorb the heat from the sun, and so literally our communities are cooking with this black asphalt. And of course, the asphalt buckles and crumbles. So there's several reasons why you have to come out and replace asphalt. One, because of the trucking, but two, because of just the heat beating down on it. And of course, the solution with that would be to plant more trees so that you can protect the asphalt, and so it's a little bit more shaded. But still, you get the issue of the truck traffic, and so our streets are literally crumbling every so often. I'm sort of getting off on a tangent here, but yes, transportation would alleviate some of those instances when the streets are okay.
You know, like this particulate matter and the trucking logistics, the simple answer that we get is, well, we're going to electrify trucks. And you're so lucky. You might be one of the first. Is that really, I mean, like, timeline-wise, like, would electrifying of all of the trucks and all of the cars that pass through the southwest side were electric batteries, would that actually, alleviate what you're talking about with the asphalt particulate matter and the amount of traffic that breaks it down?
No, the trucks can run on cotton candy for all it's worth, but there's still going to be physical trucks taking up space and impacting traffic. There's studies that, okay, fine, I'll lean into the technical part. There's a shockwave effect where if one car slows down, it affects the other cars behind it. Well, trucks often drive very slowly, and you put a bunch of trucks in traffic, it's going to slow down more and more and more and more. One, because of the pace of the trucks, but two, the amount of trucks. So they're physically taking up the space on our roads, but also, like I mentioned before, the particulate matter, the dust, they're going to break, they're going to stop very quickly, and then, of course, you've seen skid marks on the street. That's problematic because it kicks up into our air, and we're literally breathing tires. Yum.
I thank you so much for being part of the collective and for informing us to this degree. You know, particularly with school openings, I have some strong opinions, and with other things, you know, we get a lot of promises and expertise and high-level conversations from downtown, but the end results tend to be detrimental to our communities. You know, on that note, how can people get more involved with the collective, and where can people find, you know, what you're working on?
Well, a few thoughts on that. We often hear that our neighborhood, it's just the way it is. Oh, there's a lot of flooding, or oh, that's just how it's been. It's always been like that. What can we do about it? Well, no, that is not an acceptable answer. And if we get involved in our communities by speaking out, there's so many different ways that people can make real change. Change can start with one person. We've seen time and time and time again all these historic leaders and people in our communities that step up, and I've found that generally people are supportive of others. And so if you see an initiative, or you, like, for example, you know someone that's looking for work, okay, so often we hear of job leads because people care. And so if we voice our concerns, whether it's in environmental, whether it's traffic, whether it's our community members wanting work, people are responsive to that, and so it's on us to take action for whatever cause is important to you. Step up, do something. We have a phrase at the collective: "Just do it." Well, you see something, do something about it. I don't want to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, but it's literally just. I was added to the collective because I talked about trees a lot, and I just decided to do it. It's just the people power. We preach empowerment of individuals, and if you have an idea, bring it to us, and we will help you however we can. But it's up to you to bring the idea and to see it through.
Thank you so much, Rolando, for taking the time to take this interview with us. And I hope you see you guys around. Please join up and volunteer at your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I thought that was a great interview. It was great hearing from Rolando about some of the environmental impacts on the Southwest side of the industry that's concentrated here and some of the things that people can do to get involved. What were some of the big takeaways for you, Jose?
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that Rolando really helped contextualize just the amount of impact, having the volume of trucking that goes through the Southwest of Chicago has on our health, and also, how we are specifically designed more so for that, than a bikeable community. So getting from one to the other is going to require a protracted amount of community engagement. I really appreciate how well he put that all into context for me.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I really appreciated was the notion that, you know, uh, Rolando kind of came to the collective, he was saying, because, he was always talking about trees, right? He was always talking about the environment, and he got connected with us, through mutual acquaintances and all that. But I think one of the things that we sort of envision about the collective is whatever it is that you are passionate about, you could do. And, this can be a place for you to engage and really dig in on that. And, Rolando's done a lot of incredible work with us over the past few years on all sorts of projects relating to the environment across the Southwest side. So I think that's an example of how people can get involved and an open invitation to anybody who has a passion for civic engagement, in any area. And, maybe has been banging their head against the wall in some respects, come to us and, hopefully we can do something together.
Definitely. I feel like right now at the federal level at this moment, we're seeing this fight over $3.5 trillion, which, kind of puts a cap on a number on the imagination of the possible. But through community engagement and through community activism and bringing your issue to the collective and to these spaces is how we can make a lot more out of a lot less. And I think Rolando being a regular part of the collective and our conversation keeps us moving towards that vision, towards a bikeable, family-friendly community that isn't dependent on very toxic and a detrimental to our health industries for employment. So
Yeah,
um, yeah,
absolutely. All right. Well, great episode. Thanks again. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
I